Hey, y'all, Jim Pankey here. I want to talk to you today about something that comes up and I get questions all the time about it is, what is the Nashville Number System? And why do I need to know it? And what am I going to do with it? And just why? Just why? He means well. But in a little bit, you're going to hear him say this. It allows instrumentalists to talk to each other that don't necessarily use a capo at the same place or the same time. He wanted you to know that, but he just waited. I don't know why. So let's talk about it. I had been playing banjo, guitar, different instruments for a while, and I really didn't know anything about the Nashville Number System. I had learned that if I'm playing in the key of G, then I knew I needed G chord, a C chord, and a D chord. And I knew if I was playing in the key of C, I knew I needed a C chord, F chord, a G chord. I mean, I knew those things. And I had just memorized them. I used the power of memory. And I just memorized it. Okay, what chords do I need for this key? And I just memorized them. And that worked really well, especially when I was sitting at home playing along with recordings and such. And then all of a sudden, I needed a capo. Well, that's not a big deal, you know. I got my banjo out, I'm tuning up, and I'm going to play with, you know, one of the albums that I'm playing with, and I discover, hey, there's Earl, and he's playing Cripple Creek, and it doesn't work. He's higher than me. So I put my capo on. I figured out where he was just by trial and error. You know, no magic involved. Just I tried and I said, no, that doesn't sound right. I tried it somewhere else. It's like, oh, well, there it is. So I put my capo on. And now I'm still playing in my brain. I'm still playing in my brain in the key G. I've just got a capo. Everything just moved up too. And I've heard a lot of bluegrass guys, and I've said it myself, it's just G up 2. And it is, it's G up 1, 2. I'm still playing in G. I got my capo on, it's G up 2. And that's cool. And I'm fine with that. And if I play with a buddy and he puts his capo on his guitar, 2nd fret, and I put mine on the 2nd fret, and we play out of the same chord shapes, then everything's cool. And if I'm teaching him a song, I can say, okay, it's capo 2, and he says, where's it go to there? I said, I'd go to a D. But I'm really not at a D. That's not a D. I'm up 2. Oh, well, that's confusing. Well, it gets worse. It gets worse. So I attend a little bluegrass festival, and I'm standing around in a jam. I'm in a jam, because we are playing capo 2, and a mandolin player is going to teach us a song. I'm thinking, cool, he's going to show us a song. Well, mandolin players, they don't use capos. No capo. So the mandolin player had no capo. Well, now what? Because if he tells me that we're going to go to an A chord, and then we're going to go to a D chord, and it's like, do I play this thing in open, you know, with no capo? But I look over at the guitar player, and he's got his capo on the 2nd fret. It's like, oh, all right. So what chords? So now I'm confused. What chords are going to be called? And then the next thing, now it's about to turn into algebra, at least in my mind. The mandolin player says, oh, it's a simple tune. It's just 1, 4, and 5. And the guitar player nods his head like he knows what's going on. And I'm going, I have no clue what we're doing. And suddenly I went from letters to numbers. And I don't know what these numbers mean. And at that point, I'm just watching the guitar player, hoping that I can follow the chord changes that he's making
to keep up with the mandolin player. And especially when the jam comes around to me for me to take my break, then hopefully I'll be prepared to play something with my capo on. But it works the other way too. So we continue on into this jam, and the guitar player says, hey, let's do this tune. And we're still capoed. He says, we're going to do it in B. And so we move up to the key of B. And I know how to get to B now. I knew where A was. Now I know where B is. I mean, A, B flat, B. So I know where to capo to get to the key of B. So I'm Johnny on the spot. I know we're in the key of B, and I'm ready to go. And I can kind of hear chord changes, so I'm not struggling too hard. So here's where it got weird. So I'm figuring this out, and I've got it figured out. The mandolin player had never played this song before, and he leans over to me, brand new picker, hadn't been playing maybe a year. And he leans over to me and says, what's that off chord that he just went to? Which means is which chord did he go to that was not part of the standard 3 chords that he was expecting in the key that we were in, which is B. And I'm going, well, he just went to an E minor. But he didn't. That's not an E minor under any stretch of the imagination. And so I tell him it's an E minor. Well, he plays an E minor chord. Well, it's wrong. And then I get the stink eye from the mandolin player and from the guitar player. And it's like, okay, I keep my mouth shut. Next time somebody asks me what the chord is, I got the answer. I don't have any idea. I'm just playing along, holding on for dear life, hoping to get through this. And maybe you've been there too. The answer to these puzzles are those numbers that I heard the guitar player say earlier. Oh, it's just 1, 4, and 5. Because if I tell you those numbers and you know what the numbers mean, then it doesn't matter if you're using a capo or not, as long as you know where you are and you know that you're in the right key for the song, then it's going to work. So what the heck do these numbers mean? Well, let's start with something fairly simple. Let's start with the key of C. All right, so we're going to be in the key of C. So we're not going to capo for that. We know that in the key of C, because we memorized, we're good students, and we memorized that in the key of C, we have a C chord, an F chord, and a G chord. And sometimes we'll have some other chords, but we will have those 3 chords just about every time. Sometimes we'll just have a C and a G chord, but we're going to have C, F, and G. And I can communicate that to the guitar player. I can communicate that to the mandolin player. And everything's cool, because none of us are going to be using capo for the key of C. But let's start with it, because C is really easy to understand, and you know your ABCs, right? You're with me on ABC. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And in music, you don't have to know anything past G. That's as far as we have to go. And you know how to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can count to 7. If you can count if you know your ABCs through G and you can count to the number 7, now we can communicate. Doesn't matter what key that we're playing. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to take a C chord, and we're going to call C chord 1. All right, so C is 1. So let's start. C. What comes after C? D. What comes after? D, E, F. So we said we knew we needed a C, and we know we need an F, and we know we need a G. So C, D, E, F, G. Let's just go that far. So C is 1, D, E, F is 4,
and 5 would be G. So if somebody tells you that you are going to, this song is going to use 1, 4, and 5, then you know that you're going to, if it's in the key of C for you, then we know we're going to be our 1 is C, D, E, F, 4 is F, F, G is 5. And that works any key. So for instance, we're in the key of A, and the mandolin player is going to tell us the chords. So in the key of A, what do we have? A, we're gonna call A the 1 or the root, but A is 1. So A, B, C, D would be the 4, and E would be the 5, right? But now I've got my capo on. Guitar player's got his capo on. If the mandolin player uses, if he says, okay, the chords are going to be A, D, and E, then either I have to translate in my head that I know is G plus 2 is A, and then C plus 2 is D, and then D plus 2 is E. That's a lot of mental gymnastics, especially for a banjo player like myself. I don't want to have to think that hard about things. I want to be able to just dive right in. So, but if he tells me 1, 4, and 5, then I know 1 here is, there's my 1. Where's my 4? Well, it'd be my C position. And my 5 would be my D position. And that's the basis of the Nashville Number System. It allows instrumentalists to talk to each other that don't necessarily use a capo at the same place or the same time. So if I'm in the key of B, and somebody says, okay, we're in the key of B, and I've got a mandolin player next to me, and he says, what chord did it just go to there? I know he's not got a capo, and he's not using one, and I'm looking down here, and I see that I have held a C chord. Well, I can't tell him I've gone to a C because I know that's not a C, and I don't really necessarily even need to know what that is, really. I just know it's a 4 chord. I mean, I know it's a C, okay, C sharp, D, E flat, E. So it's an E chord. But see, I don't have to know that, and I don't have to calculate that. I can just tell him it's the 4 chord. Or if I go to a D, I can tell him that's the 5 chord. And so that's how 1, 4, and 5 works. And other chords work the same way too. So like if you're playing Foggy Mountain Breakdown, and you go to the E minor, then the E minor, what would that be? So we have G, right, is 1, A, B, C is 4, D is 5, and 6 would be E, or E minor. And so you could tell the bass player or the mandolin player that that went to the 6 minor. And that's the most basic information for the Nashville Number System. And that's why we use it. The other reason that I found that was so super useful for me was when I started doing session work, recording work, and I would go into a studio and there would be charts written out for songs, but we didn't know what key that the singer was going to ultimately sing it in. So we had number charts so we could play them wherever we needed them. So there you go, the Nashville Number System in about 15 minutes. I hope you got something out of that. I hope that it resonated, that something clicked, but it really is simple. Don't overthink it. Don't try to make it something more elaborate than what it really is. You can do this. Just practice a little bit in your head, figure it out. Start out like I did. Just memorize some things, but then it'll all eventually make sense. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Hey, if this kind of content is helpful and this sort of thing you like, hey, do leave a thumbs up and maybe a comment, maybe even subscribe. Ring the bell if you want. Thanks. We'll see y'all.